NBA writer Brad Botkin, and Evan Turner, who once upon a time was traded on trade deadline day.
Every trade deadline day.
But this is, I mean, we've talked to several players before, whether it's the NBA or even the NFL, any league, and it is a stressful time for you guys.
No, absolutely. I think one thing that comes with that is anxiety and not knowing what's about to happen. And, you know, sometimes, especially when it's a contract year, that's even tougher as well. So it's definitely a stressful time, but life ills is, you know, first world problems.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. Never fun packing up the family, though, if all of a sudden you're moving across the country, which is what we're about to see Jimmy Butler do. However, let's go to the latest news right now. Things that could potentially happen in the next 29 minutes or so. We're still waiting to see if Kevin Durant is going to get moved. The main two teams we were talking about, potentially the Warriors and the Heat, those two teams made their moves. Ashley, are we going to see Kevin Durant moved, or is he sticking with the Suns? Because right now, that's what it's looking like.
I find it highly improbable if Kevin Durant gets moved for a multitude of reasons. One, he's made it very clear he wants to stay in Phoenix. And I think that when you talk about Kevin Durant, you talk about a player who has had a tumultuous relationship with the media and NBA fans. And a lot of people kind of chastise him for the way that he went about winning an NBA championship. And that was joining the Golden State Warriors. Then he goes to Brooklyn. He's not able to do it on his own accord. Then he goes to Phoenix, and he's been actively trying to fight his way to get back to the promised land. And I think that Kevin Durant, at this stage in his career, 35 years old, I don't think he wants to move again. I think that he wants to try to get it out the mud in Phoenix. And if he can't, he ends his career as a two-time world champion and a Hall of Famer and holds a bunch of other records. There's worse things to be than what Kevin Durant will end his career as if he remains in Phoenix, which I think he will.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, we got, what, 28 minutes left?
Yeah, we're going to be counting down this clock pretty close.
And look, I'm not ruling anything out with Luka Doncic. Like, anything's on the table. And this trade deadline is off its meds. I mean, 9 All-Stars have been moved. This is a crazy deadline. So I'm not ruling it out. Houston has been a team that's been talked about, and they have the assets to be attractive enough to Phoenix. And still not lose their depth. So that's a team that does, even though it'd be ahead of schedule for them, they've played so well this year. Yeah. There's a reason they're talking about guys like Kevin Durant. They really might be 1 star away. And Dallas has been rumored after their big move of trying to put together enough. I don't think they're going to pull it off.
Kyrie.
Yeah, and look, KD, Kyrie, and Anthony Davis would be the favorite tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen, but they'd be the favorite tomorrow. But I also don't think that this means that he's going to end his career in Phoenix. I think Phoenix...
Really?
No, I think Phoenix is on a ticking clock here. They're not going to probably be able to get it done at the deadline. But this thing is on borrowed time. It didn't work. They're going to have to clear their books at some point.
They did just ship out
Triple Threat, though.
Yusuf Nurkic is out the door.
Well, that's because everyone hated him. So that's a little bit of a
We're also going to be very honest on this show with you.
That's a different conversation. I mean, we had this conversation on Triple Threat, and I feel like Kevin Durant, I don't know. I think Phoenix is his last stop. I could be wrong.
The only thing I can say, if you play devil's advocate, which would be Brad, of course, is sitting there and giving. I think Kevin Durant would love to choose where he goes this summer and kind of see where the dice lay and put the best position for himself. Like we said earlier, people hate getting traded. And you just don't want to pick up and go somewhere for like a half a season or another season. I think he's going to sit back, roll with the dice that he has, say maybe I'll make it to the second round in the playoffs, but this summer, if I want to trade or next summer, whatever occurs, I'll decide how that plays out and see who's willing and ready for me so I can put them in championship contention.
And that's just a championship contention. We see so many of these players, when they get to this point in their league, they're looking for that one more. Kevin Durant, now 36 years old. And if you're looking at the Suns, I mean, those chances were right there for a couple years. It's not looking like it. I mean, is this going to be one of these players that is going to go after one other championship before he retires, do you think?
See, I have a weird way of looking at this because I'm trying to get into the psyche of Kevin Durant, right? So
Good luck.
I'm going to dive into the psyche of Kevin Durant for a second.
I was sitting back to KC.
I feel like KD, again, going back to the tumultuous relationship he has with the NBA media and the fan base, he took a lot of you-know-what for going to Golden State. We talked about this yesterday. And I feel like his resume is already cemented. You talk about all the gold medals. You talk about being a 2-time world champion, finals MVP, league MVP, all of the records he has broken, one of the best basketball players we've ever seen play the game. there's nothing left for him to prove except maybe if in his own mind he wants another one. But I feel like if he went and joins a team that was prime and ready, let's say he goes back to Oklahoma City, for example,
See,
right?
that's what I'm saying. That's what I just said.
Just going to use that as an example because they're the top dog in the Western Conference.
Full circle,
and they
baby.
win a championship. He would never live that down. His legacy would never live that down. I don't care if he. I don't care if he's
Okay, see, he'd be a hero.
No, I think he's doing him a favor. I'm not gonna lie. I think if he got with a group of young dudes, I literally think he would show up and it look way different than showing up with a group of vets like he did in Brooklyn. I think even with the Brooklyn Nets, when he had James Harden and Kyrie, a lot of people were kind of like, this is another super team that kind of didn't pan out the way they wanted it to occur, you know?
OKC fans are nice, but somebody would hold up a cupcake sign. Like, still, all these years
I'm
later.
sure there's a lot of fans that are like, we're great right now. We do not need Kevin Durant coming in here and screwing things up. More on the Thunder in just a little bit as they are going to get an addition to their team, not necessarily at the trade deadline through a trade, but Chet Holmgren getting healthy again. Ashley, let's go to Bogdan Bogdanović, who is heading to L.A.
Yeah.
But not to the Lakers.
No.
To the L.A. Clippers.
To the Clippers. I mean, you look at the Western Conference right now, it's tight in the West, man. I mean, you talk about the Warriors, they're 500, the Kings are 500, the Suns are 500, and they're all in the play-in. So just put that into perspective of how competitive this conference is. The Clippers right now, 28-22, they're sitting in that final playoff spot. And I have to give, listen, the jury's still out. Everyone knows after All-Star break is when we really see teams starting to play and cook. I thought the Clippers were going to be a disaster.
Yeah,
between Kawhi, James Harden, sometimes he cares, sometimes he doesn't. He's now an all-star. Shout out to him. He's having an incredible season. The Clippers, for everything that has been thrown their way, everything that has gone wrong with this organization, they have found a way to find the roses blooming from all the you-know-what that is surrounded in L.A. And they figured out, I actually really love this guy here. He was my pick for the Denver Nuggets if they were going to make a move. Not only his relationship with Jokic, which you can't buy chemistry, I think it really would have helped them with having a big man to relieve him who could also put up similar type of productivity that Jokic has. Obviously not to his level, but I just think that that would have been an amazing pairing. The Clippers got a good one. I like that kid a lot.
Yeah, they traded for the right Bogdanović, that's for sure. That's for sure. I think I've been a big fan of Bogdanović since Sacramento, and you can't go away from him being a real-life baller. His numbers are always great. He shoots it well from the field, from the three, and he's an elite scorer, and he can hoop. And every single summer, he's a top 5 player in the world. What he does with Serbia, he's a real problem. And I think they just got another great scorer. And this dude is, I mean, you saw what he did versus US. This dude's a hooper. I'm excited for him.
When we sit in our chat rooms at night, all of us writers, and we're watching all the games, we have a thing running where we have a confidence meter, and it's when a guy shoots, what's your confidence that it's going in? Of course, Curry's like at the top of that list. I'm telling you, the next guy in the league is Bogey. When it leaves his fingers, I'm shocked if it doesn't go in. This guy is a shooter. The Clippers need shooting. They've gotten to where they've gotten to this point on defense, which is odd to say about a James Harden team. Norman Powell has been fantastic. I actually thought he should have been an all-star over Harden. And they make the second biggest trade deadline acquisition in getting Kawhi Leonard back. After Luka Doncic, let's just say this last 2 or 3 weeks has been the time when, not obviously today, but when you're adding to your team for the stretch run, they added Kawhi Leonard, and he has looked fantastic. And so a team that has gotten to the top 6 without their best player on the backing of defense and a lot of chemistry, they go and add shooting with Bogey, and they basically add Kawhi Leonard for the stretch run. Clippers are for real.
And Ty Lue can coach.
He can.
Yeah, unreal.
Yeah,
no question.
All right, we got 20 minutes to go until the trade deadline in the NBA, 3 o'clock Eastern time here on this Thursday. When we come back, we're going to discuss some of the biggest moves that have already been made, like Luka to the Lakers. How will he mesh with LeBron when they take the court together for the first time this weekend? And how about the locker room chemistry between Draymond and Jimmy Butler? That was the question when the trade came down last night. How is that going to look at Golden State? And DeAndre Hunter, a former teammate of our Evan Turner, on the move. More on that when we come back as the trade deadline enters, well, its waning moments.
Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ. Was it the biggest trade ever? We're still talking about this one. Luka Doncic, and look, I've been listening to podcasts among podcasts, our podcasts, other people's podcasts, and nobody can stop talking about this. This is what set everything off. Up until this point, we were just talking about Jimmy Butler. Luka Doncic being traded from the Mavs in return for Anthony Davis. He will now be alongside LeBron James. Ashley, we could see him as soon as Saturday. What are you waiting for to see those two guys on the court together, Luka and LeBron?
First and foremost, I'm waiting for the shock to set out of my body because
it's still there.
And I can't even imagine how you feel as a Dallas Mavericks fan.
Amanda's been crying herself to sleep every night.
Though.
She's laughing through the pain. Listen, Luka, 25 years old. He is a generational piece. The Mavericks messed up big time. I said on this very set that 5 years from now, the Mavs are going to live to regret this decision tremendously, and I'm just waiting for that to come into fruition. Luka is going to get a lot better with LeBron James at his side.
And this Lakers team is already listening to Luka. They met with him on Monday saying, hey, kind of what do you want? Because they needed a replacement for Anthony Davis. And he said, I want a big guy who's mobile and a lob threat. They found that in Mark Williams in a trade with the Hornets. So the Lakers in the past handful of days, I mean, just making some major revamping moves and got better, I'd say.
Warriors made moves as well, bringing Jimmy Butler into the fold. Brad, how do you see this looking?
Well, they finally made a move. They've been in the cereal aisle for a couple years, you know, where there's like so many boxes of cereal and you can't pick one and you just get stuck.
It's really overwhelming.
I'm telling you, they got stuck, and I thought they were going to end up with like Frosted Mini Wheats, but they ended up getting like a good deal. Jimmy Butler, that went off the rails. That went off the rails.
I thought they get a white
Whatever you. Too good. But yeah, Jimmy Butler, look, they desperately needed a second scorer next to Curry. The system is not producing shots anymore. It's like watching them swim upstream. They need to have another guy that the defense respects, and he gives them that.
And Evan, what do you think about the Pelicans shipping Brandon Ingram out of town, out of country to the Raptors?
Man, it didn't really move me too much, but I'm a big Brandon Ingram fan. I love how he's been a professional. He's been an all-star a couple years. He can score at a high level. I think once they find their foot in Toronto with RJ Barrett quickly and everything, I think Brandon Ingram is a great insurance card to get 25 points per night and, set the tone for your franchise moving forward. But they got a lot more work to do with that.
Another trade that we have seen, the Hawks trading DeAndre Hunter to the first-place Cavs in there in the East in exchange. Atlanta receiving Karis LeVert, George Niang, 3 second-round picks, 2 pick swaps. Ashley, your thoughts on this one?
Championship contenders make championship contender moves, and when you talk about this guy right here, he adds size, he adds length, he adds versatility, and this is no knock to Karis LeVert, but his shot creation in terms of what DeAndre Hunter can do and the intangibles that he brings to any team that he's a part of is just exactly what a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, sitting at #1 in the Eastern Conference, need to potentially go all the way.
Trade deadline has been going wild all week. The Lakers, they added Luka, they added
That's
the
insane.
7-footer Mark
When you
Williams.
put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything they've done this season. They acquired 6 guys. They sent 7 guys out, and they also sent some draft picks out as well. But obviously, the biggest thing here, Luka expected to make his Laker debut Saturday afternoon at home against the Pacers. Evan, how do you see, I mean, this is the million-dollar question here. How do you see Luka and LeBron meshing on the court together?
I think it's going to work, man. You're looking at 2 basketball connoisseurs, like 2 basketball savants. Like, we all need to just appreciate what this is. You know what I'm saying? You're looking at an OG version and then a modern-day version. They're going to be playing together. Not only do they have IQ, talent, but they also have size. You're going to have a 6'8", 250-pound man out there along with 6'7", fluctuation Luka. And I think
Asterisk.
And I think that's going to be so tough for any defenses to line up against. Period, point blank. And when you're making these type of moves, Rob Pelinka can wear that type of outfit, the leather jacket, and dress like a movie star.
Yeah, they, we make a huge deal out of intangibles. It gives us things to talk about sometimes. We love to throw around the word fit. I'll tell you what fits all-time great players, and they're going to figure out how to be very, very good. And basketball, in a big way, still comes down to being able to create consistent quality looks. The team that gets the most consistently quality looks more times than not, is going to be the team that wins. That is still the secret to basketball, and nobody creates more quality looks, even more than LeBron James, than Luka Doncic. He is an unbelievable orchestrator for not only his own offense, but the people around him. The Mark Williams move puts their starting five into proper balance. Those two guys are going to be a real problem in the playoffs.
That's on the court, but actually I want to ask you about off the court too, because this does involve Mark Williams, because he's had, some criticism about maybe his training and stuff like that. Just having LeBron, Mark Williams 23 years old, Luka's 25, and we all know, the fluctuation we've been talking about with his weight and stuff.
Yeah.
Having someone like LeBron creating the future of the Lakers right there. I mean, how much influence do you think he's going to have on these young guys?
I mean, they don't call him Le GM for no reason. Listen, he is going to have all the influence in the world. I think that people underestimate how serious LeBron takes the game of basketball. It's what has added to his longevity of being able to play till he's 40 years old and still dropping triple doubles. And if you think he's going to allow Luka to show up overweight, if you think he's going to allow Luka to argue with the referees instead of getting into transition, if you think he's going to allow Mark Williams to do whatever it is that he's been doing off the court or just not have any interest in making his game better, you are sadly mistaken. Yeah. Because the reason why a lot of young guys at this stage in basketball and the NBA as a whole don't want to play with LeBron James is because of how serious he takes the game. And you don't want some 40-year-old yelling at you, get up in transition faster. I don't like how you're playing defense. What are you doing? Like, we saw how Mario Chalmers and him used to get into it during the Big Three era. LeBron's longevity is not only tied to how well he takes care of his body, his basketball IQ. When he steps foot on that basketball court, he doesn't care if you guys were just joking at halftime. You're going to do what I tell you to do, and if not, I'm going to make your life very uncomfortable. And that is the type of discipline young players need.
Yeah. Luka has made it very clear that, yes, he loved Kobe and looked up to him, but really it was LeBron that he was looking up to the entire time, a 15-year age difference there.
And if you looked up to Kobe, like...
Savvy comment.
Listen, Kobe would be cursing you out at practice, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So Luka knows what he signed up for.
Let's talk about the Warriors here. And this came down, maybe like 8 Eastern last night or something like that. Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. How about that? And if you looked at the comments on social media, the very first thing we saw was, how long is it going to be before him and Draymond get into it? Not just that, Draymond, just this week had gone on his radio show saying, or his podcast or whatever it is, Jimmy, he's got to behave himself because teams aren't going to want him, and now they're playing together.
That's rich coming from Jimmy.
Yeah, I think that if you look at Jimmy Butler over the years, he does end up blowing his way out of every organization at some point. But there's usually like a couple-year honeymoon period. And this is not like a long-term marriage here. I honestly don't even know if he'll make it the 2 years that they extended him. I'm thinking that they see what happens this year. No, I really don't, because Steph Curry's probably got, let's be generous and say 3 or 4 more years.
Oh.
Okay, 4. so if it's not working this year, they're going to start looking around at what they can get for Butler to make another last-minute move. I really don't think this means that they're just riding into the sunset with Butler, and we'll see what happens. I think they give this thing's sort of on a clock. We'll see how it goes. And I also don't think that Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are going to have a problem. I think that it's people like us who need something to talk about, and it's like both these guys.
Maybe we're just kind of hoping they have a problem to talk about
some
it.
drama. Like, both these guys are hotheads. They have history, but it's like they're both competitors. They both want to win. And I just don't see that being any kind of interruption. The questions about this fit are going to be basketball. Do the Warriors have enough spacing? They're going to play a 5-man lineup that only has 1 shooter in it. So there's structural issues. But it's not going to be because Draymond and Jimmy are in a fist fight.
Also, too, just give Draymond his credit. He's won at every level. He really does care about winning. I think he's at a point now where it's not 2015, 2016, or even 2018, 2019 we had KD. I think he knows his urgency. I think he understands it's a writing on the wall, and like they really have to step up and win now and make something happen. And I think he's going to be more paid attention to that than butting heads with what Jimmy does with his hair.
I also think Jimmy is a lot more savvy than people give him credit for. Think about this, okay? He forced his way out of Minnesota, Philly, Chicago, gets to Miami, becomes the best teammate, conference finals. All his teammates love him. You hardly heard anything. He did a little bit of trolling here and there. We know emo Jimmy, the braids, the whatever.
That, though.
But he was a model teammate.
Yeah.
None of his guys had anything bad to say about him. It's only when he didn't get his way that all of a sudden he flips the script and goes back to the Jimmy that we all kind of hoped that he turned over this new leaf and changed. He's going to get to Golden State, and he's happy he's out of Miami. You're going to see that Jimmy again.
Psychologically, that's a great point. I think Jimmy loves to do the opposite of what everyone thinks he's going to do. And I think if I had to guess, I think he's sort of relishing this opportunity to go in there and be like the model citizen. Because everyone thinks that I'm going to blow this thing up. I think he just likes to do whatever people think he's not going to do.
And also, too, man, a devil's advocate, like, start looking at Pat Riley. Brian left there, like, it's not hard to get into it. Shout out to Pat Riley.
I'm on the same page as you.
But you act like it's like the Pope that you're butting heads with.
Careful now, we're South Florida.
No, absolutely.
Heat fans now.
Yeah, if you find me, come and get me, man. I should not be disrespecting you. But I'm just saying, like, it ain't like he's talking to, you know, his favorite.
He ran Dwayne Wade out.
That's what you said.
I think it was Pat Riley who commissioned that statue of Dwayne Wade as well and created the face on that. Here are the games tonight as we get ready to pass the trade deadline 5 minutes away. Dallas Mavericks play in Boston tonight. We're not going to see AD tonight in uniform, but we should see him this weekend when we should see Luka Doncic make his Lakers debut as well, both on Saturday.
We are less than 2 minutes away from the trade deadline, and if you thought it was going to be quiet, it is not. We've got some things coming down right now. Reports the Grizzlies are trading Marcus Smart, a 2025 first-round pick, to the Wizards. However, that is not the biggest thing going on right now, Chris.
No, that's because the Clippers are sending Kevin Porter Jr. to the Bucks, who have already made a big move, sending Middleton out and getting Kuzma. What do you think of Kevin Porter Jr. going to Milwaukee, Evan?
I'm a big fan of Kevin Porter Jr. as an offensive player. I think when it comes to that team, they need some help off the bench, whether it comes to ball handling and just a guy that can go get a bucket. It's always great when you can have a guy go out and get 20 when somebody's sitting down or out, but you need to be as loaded as possible when you're trying to make a deep run.
All right, the trade deadline is 1 minute away. It does not appear as though the Phoenix Suns are going to move Kevin Durant. We will recap everything and get you set at the top of the hour here on HQ.
We are following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. That is because it is 3 Eastern, almost 3:01. So the NBA trade deadline has come and gone. Chris Hassel, Amanda Guerra, Ashley Nicole Moss, Brad Botkin, Evan Turney. You got all of us here. We're going to stay with you for a while, going over all the last-minute deals that are coming down because things are still coming in, and the deals that didn't get done. We're going to start right there because we're waiting to see if Kevin Durant was going to get moved from the Suns. It does not appear that is going to happen. Brad, I'm going to start with you on this because this is something that really just popped up over the past couple of days. It got so hot, and here we are. It doesn't look like anything's going to happen.
It got real hot. Reportedly, it got to where Steph Curry and Kevin Durant had a phone call, and the Warriors and Suns pretty much had a deal in place for Durant to go to Golden State, and Durant just said, I'm not running that back. So that ends up with Jimmy Butler.
Good for you, KD.
Yeah, hey, he's a man of principle.
It's aggressive.
Stand on your business.
But to tell Steph to be
But if anyone can do it, I guess it's KD.
Yeah.
I guess been there, done that. But yeah, he doesn't move. And once that didn't happen, and he made it clear he didn't want to go there, there's not too many other situations I think he'd be more fond of than just trying to get it done with D-Book and Beal in Phoenix for the rest of this year. And I think Evan made the right point earlier in the show. He has time now to see how it goes this year and then reassess with a clear mind and some time to think about it in the offseason, how he wants to play out the last chapter of his career.
I love that he stood on business, though. Good for you, KD. Kudos. No one's going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that.
Hey, he caught a lot of hell for going there.
Because, listen, let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say he would have went to Golden State. They would have made the finals. Maybe they could. Let's say they even would have won the whole thing. It's very unlikely, but let's just say.
You give Steph a chance, they could have won.
Let's just say that they did, right? The narrative wasn't going to be that KD went to Golden State to help Steph Curry. Everyone likes Steph more. The narrative was going to be KD couldn't win without Steph. See, told you. It wasn't going to be what it actually was that Steph needed KD to help him win. Everyone goes with the person they like more. In this situation, it's Steph. I like this. KD's saying, look, if I can't win in Phoenix, maybe I leave, maybe I don't, but I'm going to win on my own accord this time around.
Yeah,
so you guys can't tell me nothing. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I know nobody cares, but I'm also like kind of happy for the sake of like the Suns organization. They've been trying to get things back on track, but the trade Kevin Durant at deadline after kind of having an unsuccessful year. I think that kind of would have put them back a couple more years as well.
Well, where do they go from here, though? I mean, they sent Nurkic out. You know, you talked about how nobody liked him.
That's the big one.
So that's the move they make, not a move for Kevin Durant. They're kind of in limbo right now. I mean, is there much hope that Kevin Durant can get this ship righted?
And also, just to remind everybody, they're 10th right now in the West, still 15.5 games behind the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, they're tied for the last play-in spot right now.
I mean, you're at a point now where
at 500 though, this just again speaks to how tight the West is, because record-wise, it's not like they're abysmal.
Yeah, they're 500 exactly, which are 3 other teams and a lot of other teams right around that mark.
Yeah, and they just have to step up to the plate and make sure killers kill, man. You got Kevin Durant, you got Devin Booker, you got Brad Beal on the bench, but those guys have to step up and make sure they're in the right position and in title contention. Just 2 years ago, they were screaming it should be easy.
League's too good. It's too. The Suns are the model for what everyone's moving away from.
Yes.
You can't just go get 3 individual superstars, put them together. The league is too deep. There's too much parity. And then the math game, as much as everybody hates analytics, or the real hoopers hate analytics, you know, there's something to 3 being more than 2. And the Phoenix Suns have been trying to outrun the math problem ever since they got Booker and KD, who live in the mid-range. Every night, they are up against teams that shoot and make way more three-pointers than they do. And you're talking about 2 of the best mid-range shooters ever, and they still can't consistently keep up with the math. So that's why they're not winning. They just don't make enough threes to keep up with these teams with their mid-range power. It's very, very difficult.
I think it's also a compliment because I'm a mid-range defender. I will die defending the mid-range. It's going to be me. I also think the problem is to your point, they're going with that big 3 philosophy that we saw work for Boston, that we saw work for Miami. But to your point, leagues now are the league now is much more diverse and dispersed in terms of talent. You have teams that have been actively working, whether it's through free agency, whether it's through the trade, going through the trenches each and every season. Look at OKC, for example, and they're now reaping the benefits. Also, you put together 3 players. Devin Booker has been in Phoenix. Kevin Durant, love KD. He's 36 years old. Bradley Beal, love Bradley Beal, but he's dealt with a lot of injury in his career. You never really gave them a bench, so you expected the star power of those 3 names to supersede everything else. The league does not work that way anymore. And they really never gave this team all of the facilities they needed to really make some noise, especially in the Western Conference. If they're in the East, this is a top 4 team.
Ashley, know this. 3 o'clock has passed today. Kevin Durant's not going to end his career in Phoenix.
Really?
No. Kevin Durant's this Phoenix thing is on borrowed time. It's going to be
You think after this season?
It could be.
You should ask Steph. I'm sure he told Steph, like, I'm not trying to get
You
traded.
call Steph. You ask him. I don't know what he says.
I ain't got his number.
Ask Iggy, and then he'll ask Steph.
Can't get Steph's number. Yeah, I just don't. I don't think that he ends up there. I just think that, look, they didn't want to make a hasty move at the deadline. But when they have time to assess this thing, and when Kevin has time to assess this thing, it's the Phoenix thing is not going to work.
The real winner in this situation is Bradley Beal, if we're going to be honest.
Why is that?
Because no trade clause. He really held all the cards in his pocket, because if we're going to be honest, if the Phoenix Suns were going to make a move, that was the piece they were going to move. It wasn't going to be Devin Booker.
Jimmy Butler would be in Phoenix if it wasn't
he'd be in Phoenix.
Bradley Beal.
Jimmy Butler would be in Phoenix right now if it wasn't for Bradley Beal.
Where do you
like a toddler?
Bradley Beal has the ultimate trump card, and that is a no trade clause. I absolutely
Wow, a
love
Trump
his
reference on the show. I
want to know who Bradley Beal's agent is, and I want to shake his hand, because a no trade clause, God bless.
Steph Curry don't got a no trade.
Or the resilience of just being like 100 people like, we don't want you here, and it's like, oh no, I'm still gonna be here. Like literally, it's like, you know you're ruining everything, and it's like, oh, it doesn't matter.
I'm telling you.
Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like literally crazy.
That's a good point.
Ask you this, because you did bring up Jimmy Butler. Would you have rather seen Jimmy Butler on the Suns or with the Warriors where he is now?
I think if he were on the Suns, it would have given the Suns more of a chance to make some noise, and I think it's going to do in Golden State. So in that regard, I would say that the Suns would have been a better option for Jimmy, and ultimately what he and Kevin Durant wants. The jury is still out for me on how this pairing of Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond is going to work in Golden State for the bigger picture.
When you go from 2 to 3 superstars, that's a quantum leap. Two is manageable. When you get to 3, there starts to be, no matter how, there's only so many possessions, and there starts to be diminishing returns on how good that player is. Bradley Beal's clearly not the player that he was in Washington when he's scoring 30 a game. Kevin Love wasn't the player that he was in Minnesota when he goes to the Cavs. That third person, there's going to be diminishing returns on them. So when you get, if let's say hypothetically Jimmy Butler ends up in Phoenix with KD and Booker, and they're able to move Beal, you would not be getting playoff Jimmy. I really don't think that. You'd be getting, like, where do I fit? When do I get my shots, Jimmy? There's diminishing returns on that third guy. The going from 2 to 3 is a big problem on the court, I think.
Let's go to New Orleans, where the Pelicans sent Brandon Ingram to the Raptors. Ingram played Zion's whole career. He had Brandon Ingram by him when he was either sitting on the bench or out there on the court. What's next for Zion in this franchise?
Evan?
It's time to put your big boy pants on, man, and time to lock in. Too much
is that a weight joke?
I was about to say, I don't think it was.
It's like a double entendre. Like, take it for what it's worth, man. At the end of the day, Zion's talented. He's unreal, but too much is given, much is expected. And when it's coming down to superstars and franchises, the ship don't move unless you're on it. Like, Brandon can do so much, CJ can do so much, but it's like, no, your alpha has to show up day in and day out. This dude averages 18 points in the paint.
Yeah.
Like, you know how crazy it is? Like, you understand what I'm saying?
He's incredible.
Like, yeah, like, just get your body right, and I guarantee you, it's like back in the day when you had to guard Corey Maggette off the Maggette screen. Nobody's going to want to stand in front of you, and that was Corey Maggette. Imagine Zion Williamson.
Man, Maggette was a truck. I forgot about him.
I just think the issue, though, is that as much as you can say get your body right, as much as you can say X, Y, and Z, the realistic conversation here is that in some way, shape, or form, he's going to be injured or out of shape. And that has just shown to be who he is.
That's the problem.
And the unfortunate reality for this Pelicans organization is so much stock has been put in a healthy Zion, but you haven't gotten an ounce of that return. So there has to be a real conversation in New Orleans. I understand when you drafted him, he was supposed to be the piece that moved this franchise and this organization in a drastically different direction. But how much longer are you going to wait for that return to happen?
Wait, emphasis on wait.
Okay.
Hey, you guys remember when Jimmy Johnson said one of the truest things that I love when they talked about do different players get treated differently in organizations based on how good they are? And he said, absolutely. Everyone's like, oh, like Jimmy Butler has different rules. Like he would say, if Troy Aikman was asleep in the meeting, I would go wake him up. If the special teams guy was asleep, he'd get cut. Yeah. And it's the truth. Sure. Zion Williamson, he deserves to be kind of criticized for his inability to stay healthy because he's not keeping his weight on track. Luka Doncic, he's getting a bunch of hell for his weight, but he has performed. It's different, man. I'm sick of hearing this. Luka's out of shape. Luka shows up. He could have a cigarette in his mouth going down the court, and he's still the best player on the court, so he gets some leniency. It has actually cost Zion and his team, so he deserves the criticism for not doing it. Luka can be out of shape. He's still getting 30.
Yeah. And to your point, it's not like Jokic is an Adonis. It's, Jokic isn't a physical specimen. He's
the dad bod era.
Unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. The dad bods are in.
Yeah, I'm about to come back.
What
You're way above the dad bod.
What I'm saying is that this emphasis on weight, it's not so much about body shaming and things like that. I think it doesn't matter if you're performing. Jokic performs. Luka performs, which is what made the trade so mind-blowing in its because even if he came in at 270, if 270 gives you a triple-double, sign me up.
You're right. You're absolutely right, man. Let's make it normal. Be like, mind your business. I'm hooping. How about
if
that?
You're
Mind your business.
Joel Embiid can't stay healthy. His knees are going out on him. Lose some weight, dude. But like Lucas shows up and he kills in the playoffs. Yeah. He doesn't have these injuries where he's out for years at a time. Yeah. Dude, get off the Luka weight train.
I will say my final point on this is, though, the Pelicans, if you are a player, you want an organization as loyal to you as the Pelicans are to Zion because he has underperformed, he's been injured, he's been overweight, and the Pelicans are like, I'm going to stick beside him.
To their own detriment.
Remember when Chris Rock said it's all about your options? Hey, they ain't got no options.
That's my man. I'm going to stick with Zion.
Nobody wants Zion. Nobody wants Zion.
Trade deadline has come and gone. We saw the big names move earlier in the week. Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers. He wanted Mark Williams, the big man, 7-footer. He is there in LA now. We are going to see Luka make his Lakers debut this weekend, more than likely, on Saturday. We are also expected to see Anthony Davis make his Dallas debut on Saturday as well. Coming up, winners and losers from the deadline. Is anyone going to say the Mavs are a winner? Nobody? Okay, no. I don't know who everybody's winners and losers are.
Why are you bullying Amanda?
You know what? Thank you. I
Just
would
rubbing
like
it in a little bit.
I appreciate
Winners and
that.
losers for the NBA trade deadline next.
CBS Sports HQ NBA trade deadline has come and gone. We're about to go through winners and losers. It is about, oh, look, we're after 3 o'clock now. I think for the first time since Saturday night, we can take a breath. Like, we've made it over the line because starting on Saturday night, whether we were asleep or awake, that is when the news of Luka came down, and then everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket after that. Chris Hassel, Amanda Guerra, Ash Nicole Moss, Brad Bach, and Evan Turner here. We're going to go winners and losers. Brad, we're going to start with you. Your biggest winner, or at least one of them.
It's not even close. It's Rob Pelinka. This guy was about to get run out of town. They win a championship. First of all, LeBron just shows up for him. He did not show up because of Rob Pelinka. He wanted to move to Los Angeles, so he gets out. And then because LeBron is there, he ends up with Anthony Davis. That gets him a championship. And then he dumps Alex Caruso and Dwight Howard and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and all these reasons that they want, and he's been catching hell ever since. He signs Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony and Montrezl Harrell, and he can't get anything right. And all of a sudden, the Mavericks just call him up. That's the key here.
Nico called him.
That's the key. He didn't even pursue this stuff. The ESPN reports that Nico called him up and said, do you want to go get coffee? This guy thought he was going to get coffee and came out with Luka Doncic, okay? For one draft pick. He actually left him over enough to go and get Mark Williams. After he got Luka, then they asked him, well, there's a hole on the Lakers. You don't have a center. He says, well, I'm looking at the market. It's pretty dry out there. We're probably going to have to wait for the offseason. Hornets. Mind you, the same team that gave the Lakers Kobe Bryant. The Hornets say, no, we got exactly what you need. They call up Rob Pelinka.
Rob is busy with movers, to be honest with you. He's like, I'm on my way out.
I'm telling you, this guy, all he's doing is picking up the phone, and he's going to end up with Executive of the Year. It's unbelievable. These teams are just calling at every turn in the Lakers' history. Somebody has showed up to save the day. Wilt showed up, then they got Kareem, then Magic showed up, then Shaq and Kobe showed up, then LeBron showed up, and Pelinka just picking up the phone. It's unbelievable to me, and he's going to get all the credit. The credit goes to the people who made the call. Unbelievable.
And that leads us right to Ashley's loser.
Yeah, the loser is the one who made the phone call.
Exactly.
That would be Nico Harrison. Evan, cover your ears. Nico, the ego, as they're calling him in Dallas, because he traded away a generational player in
Offered to trade it.
at 25 years old.
And
He
25 is crazy.
Nobody inquired about Luka.
Yeah,
Nobody picked up the phone and said, hey, Dallas, are you interested in trading Luka? He picked up the phone.
Yeah, it would have been
and said,
insulting to call and say, can I have Luka?
Let's go to Starbucks, Rob. Listen, over the little cafe macchiatos, whatever they drink, I'm going to give you Luka. Rob's like, you're going to give me who?
What was left of Rob's coffee was in the trade. Like, I'll give you Luka for Anthony Davis and the rest of your coffee.
I will tell you this, and because it's going to happen, and we were on set with Jenny when I said this. Once upon a time, the Boston Red Sox traded away a player by the name
No. And this
of
hurt my
Babe
soul
Ruth.
when you said this.
Babe Ruth. They sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees.
This
what
would
happened?
usually be hyperbole.
What happened?
This is absolutely
the perfect
relevant.
scenario. Okay,
This is absolutely
sold
relevant.
Babe Ruth to the Yankees, and the curse of the Bambino began. And they suffered for a very long time.
And I bet you there was people saying Babe Ruth was overweight. That's what I'm telling you. I bet you they were saying, Babe, hey, Boston don't want Babe. He drink too much beer. We got to get him out of here.
Nico, I'm telling you right now, the Dallas Mavericks and all the bad that is going to come to this organization is on your head.
Yeah, witness protection for Nico.
For sure. Nico the ego.
Nico,
Also-
you can still come to my wedding.
Very interesting. The Mavericks season ticket holders, I think their annual dinner is tomorrow. They've already been issuing some refunds to people who have
Nico,
asked.
don't
when you
show
know-
up.
that's when you know you made
You
a
gotta
bad
wonder,
deal.
is he gonna show
Nico,
up?
don't
Are they
show
still
up.
doing the
Nico,
dinner? I
Nico,
am very
don't do it.
curious.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, Nico.
Just for
If
some
they got-
little bit of drama
Yeah,
in
don't do
Dallas.
it.
Evan, let's go to your winner from the trade deadline.
I think my winner, to be honest with you, is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think I'm a big fan of DeAndre Hunter. Obviously, that backcourt was already unreal with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Now you give them a legit three-man that can average 15, 16, 17 points and guard the other team's best player. But once again, this is, DeAndre Hunter been playing like a man all year. He's been on a tear all year. Physically, he's imposing. The people on the West Coast that, probably don't know who he is, man, tune in. This is going to be a big spring for him. He's stepping up.
Cavs still alone in first place in the Eastern Conference, 5 games clear of everybody else. Let's go out west for Ashley's winner, and it's a team trying to fight their way into the postseason for the first time in a while, and they made a move that might help them get there.
I'm not going to go with Luka and the Lakers because that's an easy way out. I'm actually going to go San Antonio. I like what they're building in San Antonio. Obviously, their timetable is sped up in which they have to make moves because of a guy named Wemby. And I think that they have really made that with this guy right here, De'Aaron Fox. I think Wemby is going to flourish having a ball handler like De'Aaron Fox, a young guy like De'Aaron Fox, that they can both grow together. Chris Paul, the point guard, is fantastic, but Chris Paul doesn't have many more years left that he's going to play. When you talk about De'Aaron Fox and Wemby, I think you talk about a duo that that can really exist in the NBA for seasons and seasons to come. The Spurs have a really good reputation of building out teams and not putting themselves in a deficit that will prevent them from making moves each and every season. Wemby deserves that. They're going to give this to Wemby. You don't get a player, Nico, listen to me. You don't get a player like Wemby, a generational player, and don't do right by him. You do everything you need to keep him happy, and that's what they're doing in San Antonio.
The thing with Fox, too, is pace. The pace that the Spurs are going to play at. Chris Paul's teams play slow, and the thing that makes a bunch of things make Wemby different, but the thing that really makes him different is the way he can move, full court and in the half court. Yeah. To speed the game up is really going to make him even more trouble to deal with.
But this actually goes to your loser, which is the team that sent De'Aaron Fox over there.
Yeah, and this goes, all roads lead back to Luka Doncic in this trade deadline. And the reason the Kings are I actually think the Kings, they have talent. I mean, Domantas Sabonis got snubbed in the All-Star situation. Again, this guy's a top 10 MVP player. Zach LaVine's having a great year. DeMar DeRozan's great. Malik Monk, they have a good team. So the reason that they're my loser is because of the history, and it traces back to this team could have drafted Luka Doncic. They took Marvin Bagley. But that was like,
go back to the biggest loser.
But that's where it starts. They have De'Aaron Fox, they have something nice cooking, they draft Tyrese Halliburton. They get rid of Tyrese Halliburton because they have De'Aaron Fox. And then they lose De'Aaron Fox. But the Sacramento Kings, for all intents and purposes, have had their hands on Luka Doncic, Tyrese Halliburton, and De'Aaron Fox. And now they got none of them. That's a tough, tough pill to swallow. And I don't understand all the circumstances. I know there's a lot of factors in play, but at the end of the day, the Kings had their hands on 3 unbelievable players. And they lost all of them.
The beam is so dim right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Chicago Bulls, and that's Evan's loser, because the Bulls had their hands on 3 guys that they thought that they could have at least a playoff run at some point. It never happened with Caruso, DeRozan, and LaVine. Now they're all gone, and what do the Bulls have for it?
Nothing. I mean, they basically got their own pick back from a couple years ago, but when
that's the only pick.
Yeah, when LaVine, Caruso, and DeRozan were at a high level, they held on to the assets too long and screwed the pooch.
Shout out to Lonzo Ball, though, still standing.
You know, they didn't screw the pooch, they screwed the pooch.
Yeah, they screwed the pooch.
Vooch is the only one left. Vooch is the only one left. I thought he was going to the Warriors.
It is actually really sad, though, because Chicago, for a very, very small window in time.
For 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Evan was talking about it.
Lonzo's a top 5
They really looked like they were changing the corner, and they were going to become the Chicago Bulls, not of the past, but they were going to bring the organization into the modern NBA, and it just went so bad.
And they play with energy. They play tough defense. They had like the crowd behind them and everything. I almost bought a T-shirt. This close.
Oh, I love that.
Bought a
T-shirt. Very quickly.
I thought they would get rid of Kobe White, too, because they're not going anywhere. I thought Kobe White could have helped a team like Dallas that needs another point guard. They hang on to him.
Yeah. Okay, I was told I can't ask my question because we have to get offset. Okay, sorry. No, okay, as you look at this, we'll get it under this. I want one team name from the East and the West. With everything that's happened, who comes out of the East, who comes out of the West? Evan, we'll start with you.
All right, coming out of the East is the Celtics. Coming out of the West, I will give it to the Lakers.
Is this a question?
Okay. Yeah, I want to know.
Okay, it's the Thunder. The Thunder is still the best. I mean,
I still
getting Chet Holmgren back tomorrow.
We talked about Kawhi being a huge pickup. They're getting Chet Holmgren, the second best rim protector in the league. Back. OKC and Boston's still the team in the East.
I'm sticking with the pick I made at the start of the season. Give me OKC and give me the New York Knicks, baby.
As long as those guys don't wear out the Tibbs minutes, they're pretty good.
Orange and blue skies, baby.
Coming up next, Tim Doyle is going to join us from Sportsline, and he's going to give us some NBA picks up next as the trade deadline has come and it has gone.
Equality gets no timeouts or tryouts or second chances. February reminds us we could change our circumstances. We give thanks to the athletes who took big risks, who beat the odds despite being oddballs because of their skin. But to change the status quo, you have to be willing when silence is comfortable. Speaking out is an act of resistance. This is the month we remember. But more importantly, we dream of something bigger.
Looks to continue Big East dominance as the Huskies enter flying territory on CBS Sports Network.
Is that? I think it is.
It's danger.
We stand here and we fight. We'll be stuck in this reality forever.
Like you've never seen before. Henry Danger, the movie. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
Every athlete knows it takes sacrifice for progress to unfold. Black history is like sports, made for those who participate. When racism is your opponent, the shot clock is every moment. When justice is delayed, there's no time to play. Competition should bring fairness, not take integrity away. Freedom is the only contest we can all lose. If we don't join together and lace up our shoes, equality gets no timeouts or tryouts or second chances. February reminds us we could change our circumstances. We give thanks to the athletes who took big risks, who beat the odds despite being oddballs because of their skin. Some may never get recognition, but to change the status quo, you have to be willing when silence is comfortable. Speaking out is an act of resistance. This is the month we remember. But more importantly, we dream of something bigger.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Ashley, did you know We Need to Talk is going into its 10th season, and we are bringing a digital show every single week.
So we're going to highlight women in sports, whether you're playing, whether you're commentating, whether you're working behind the scenes. I'm looking forward to us having the platform to lead the charge in that.
I'm so excited to talk with you every single week on We Need to Talk Now.
Everyone's in for a treat. It's going to be fun.
I'm starting to feel it now. A little bit of excitement.
Oh, and it takes a lot.
It does, but we're only 3 days away from Super Bowl 59, the rematch. Chiefs, Eagles, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts.
Do you let yourself eat dessert on the Super Bowl?
Well, Probably not. But we'll see. You know, if it's a great game and it goes overtime again, maybe. Here are the best quarterback records without a Super Bowl title.